everyone to put a bubble in their mouth for me. Thank you. Alright, how are y'all doing this morning? Good? Okay. Now, as you know, this whole week, what have we been talking about? 3D shapes. More specifically, we've been talking about two types. Can anybody tell me what types those are? Yes. Pyramids and prisms. Great job. Okay, so as the board says, I need everyone to pull out the vocabulary homework that you did at the beginning of the week. Remember, those are those 5 terms that we went over? Yeah, okay. Can anybody tell me what terms those are? Does anybody remember the 5 of them? Ashley. Prism. Pyramid. Good job. What else? Faces. Edge. And vertex. Very good. Now, I need y'all to keep those vocabulary lists on your desk, as we're going to be working a lot with those vocabulary words today. Okay, so speaking of prisms and pyramids, let's review the types that we've been talking about lately. Can anybody list some of the prisms that we've talked about? Yes. A right prism. Great job. Now, a lot of people don't call it a right prism. What do we usually refer to it as? We usually call them cubes. Yep. What other kind of prisms are there? Rectangular. Good job. And we talked about one last more. Does anybody remember what that was? Triangular. Great job. Okay, now let's talk about pyramids. We also talked about 3 types of pyramids. Can anybody list those 3 for me? Brick. Triangular. Great job. Rectangular. And square. Great job. So as you can see, we usually talk about the same types of prisms and pyramids. We have triangular, triangular, rectangular, rectangular, square, which is the base for a right prism is a square. Great job. Okay, now what we're going to focus on today is identifying what types of prisms or pyramids based off of figures that we see. Now, there's certain steps that we need to do in order to identify these shapes. And get out a blank sheet of paper, please, and write these down. Okay, first step, we need to make sure that we're working with a 3D figure. So is this shape a 3D figure? And if the answer is yes, then we go on to step 2. Step 2, which is one of our vocab words, we're going to figure out how many faces does our figure have? And I am running out with that marker. Okay, so how many faces does our figure have? Next step, step 3, we're going to figure out how many edges our figure has. Step 4, can anybody guess what else we need to figure out? Tom, you say corners. What's our vocabulary word that means corners? Vertices. Great job. Oops. Okay. And last, after that, what's the next step? Last step, identify the figure. Okay. Give you all a minute to get those copied down. I wrote a little fast. Alright, is everyone done? Great. Okay, so I will lay this on the big table. You still need to copy it down. You're more than welcome to get up and copy it down. We just have to keep going. We're a little short on time today. Okay, so let's work with our first figure. This is our first figure. Don't make fun of my drawings. I am not an artist. I am a teacher. Okay, so let's focus on step 1. Can anybody answer step 1 for me? Okay. Does anybody know what step 1 is? Is this shape a 3D figure? Yes. Great. So we can continue. Now, what if our answer was no? Do we use these steps? No. We use the steps we learned about last week with our 2D shapes. What are those? We focus on edges, because how many faces does a 2D shape have? Only one. Great job. Okay. Now, what is our next step? Step 2. Right, we need to count the faces. So, let's see. 1, 2, 3, and these get a little hard to see. 4, 5, 6. Tomorrow I'll bring in the actual shapes. Since we can wrap up the lesson, we'll be able to see and identify the 3D shapes with actual blocks. So it'll be a lot easier for us to see. So I got 6 faces. Does anybody have any questions on how I got that? Okay, so just to review, here's one face. There's the other face. Our base is on the bottom where there's number 5. There's a face up front, a face on top, and then a face on the other side. Does that make sense to everyone? Great. Okay, now, step 3 is what? Great. How many edges? Does anybody want to take a guess at how many edges there are? Educated guess. That's the only kind of guesses we do in here. Thank you. You don't need to be playing with that. Okay. Stephanie, take a wild guess from me. Based off of what you see. You see 9. Okay, let's see if we can find 9 lines. 1, 2, sorry, edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Great. Now, does anybody disagree with her? Robert, why? Exactly, you still have the back side of the shape. Does that make sense, Stephanie? So we have 10, 11, and 12. So 12 are answered. Does anybody have any questions so far? Great. Step 4, vertices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and since we know this shape is 3D, we know that there's going to be an 8th one right there in the back, right? 8 vertices. Okay, so let's think about this. Number 5, we need to identify the shape. This is our last step. So let's start broad, and we'll work our way in. Is this a triangle? I mean, not triangle. Is this a pyramid or is this a prism? Kara, why do you say this is a prism? Looking at your definition. Yes, all the faces are polygons, and what else? Two faces that are parallel. Bingo, that's what makes this shape a prism rather than a pyramid. So we know that we have a blank prism. Now, what are the type of prisms we talked about that we have to choose from? Triangular, right, which is a cube, and rectangular. Remember, triangular, what's the base going to be? Triangle. Right, what's the base going to be? Square. Rectangular, what's the base going to be? A rectangle. So based off of this, what kind of prism do we have? Chris. Rectangular. Great job. Okay, does anybody have a question on how we got a rectangular prism based off of example 1? No questions? Any concerns, comments? You think it's too easy? Hard enough? Alright, y'all are just saying that. Okay, so let's move to example 2. Okay. Number 1. Is this a 3D figure? This was extremely hard to draw, and I accidentally forgot a line. Right there. But is this a 3D figure? Yes. Great job. It doesn't look like it. For this lesson's sake, we're going to pretend that I drew it correctly to where it looks like a 3D figure. Number 2. What's number 2? What's our step number 2? Yes, I'm pointing to you. We need to count the faces. Okay, so there's one here in the front, one on this side, back there, one on this side, and our base. That means there's 4 faces. Does anybody disagree? Okay, number 3, what are we counting? Our edges. Okay, let me get my other marker where we can draw our edges. Okay, so I see 1, 2, 3 in the back, 4, 5, 6. Does anybody disagree with 6? Did somebody get something else? No? Great. 6. Okay. Number 4 asks, what, Brandon? Vertices. Alright, how many vertices do we see? 1, 2, 3, and since this is 3D, what do we know? There's one hiding in the back. 4. Great job. 4 vertices. Alright, I'm going to draw 5 number here because we're getting a little short for Mrs. Pate. Okay, so what does number 5 ask? This is the step where we identify our figure. Great job. Okay, so remember, we start broad and we come in. We start big and we get more and more specific. So, prism or pyramid? Remember, go back to your vocabulary sheet, reference that. It will help you figure it out. give you a couple minutes to think. Raise your hand when you have the answer. Brittany. Okay, what did you get? Prism, pyramid, and why? You say we have a blank pyramid. Why do you say that? Because the base is a polygon. Yes, that looks like a polygon. Okay, so the faces are triangles. Great job. And they come together at one vertex. Well, that looks like a pyramid to me. Does anybody disagree? Okay, now we need to focus on our base to figure out what kind of pyramid it is. Does anybody remember the three that we talked about? It was on the last page. What kind of pyramids? Triangular, rectangular, last one, square. Okay, for a triangular pyramid, what is our base going to look like? Diego, what is our base going to look like? Triangle. Rectangle, Deanna. The rectangular is rectangle. Sorry, I kind of gave you that answer. I knew you knew it anyways. And lastly, Stephanie, square base. Oops, that's a square. Okay, Michael, based off of this information, what kind of pyramid do we have for example 2? Triangular. Good job, guys. Okay. You should have had time to copy that down because I did it extremely slow. But if you didn't, I'll have it laying on the table with the other sheet that we can go back and look at it again. Okay. Let's do one more example together and then I'll give you some to do on your own, okay? Here we go. Number 1. Brad, yes or no? You say yes. Do you know what I was talking about? No, you don't, because you were talking. What I'm talking about is step number 1. Is it a 3D shape? Yes. So you were correct. You just didn't know it. Number 2. Who wants to answer it? Kara, sure answering a lot today. How many edges? Sorry, how many faces? We're going to do faces first. You say 9 faces? Let's see, that seems like a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good job. Alright. Number 3 is edges. Who has my edges for me? Jenny. You're not sure? Alright, let's work it together. Oh my gosh. I just did edges, didn't I? No wonder y'all are looking confused at me. This is actually number 3, and this is number 2. See, that's why it's important to have your steps in front of you, right? Okay, so let's get back on track. We're doing faces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 faces. Sorry, guys. Alright, now, to go in order, how many edges are there? Well, yeah, of course all y'all are going to raise your hand. 9. Okay. Did I confuse anyone, or are we're still good? Okay. Stop me if I confuse y'all like that again. Number 4, we're looking for vertices. How many vertices are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did y'all get 5 vertices? What? Great job. There's one hiding. 6 vertices. Does anybody disagree? Is anybody confused? Great. Okay. Number 5. Okay. So remember, guys, we're going to go big to small. So what's my big answer? Lily, what's my big answer? Prism. Great job. Does anybody disagree with Lily? And what kind? Rick? Triangular. How did you get that? Your base was a triangle? Great job. Okay. I will put this example over on the table for y'all as well. Now what I want y'all to do is take a couple minutes, and do y'all see those 3 shapes on the board? You don't have to draw them, but I need you to do steps 1 through 5 for each of them. If you need to come up to the board and poke your little fingers around and count stuff, you can. But if you do it from your seat, do it from your seat. If you want to draw the shapes, you can. But it's hard. So I'll give you about 5 or 10 minutes to do that and we'll come back, okay? Okay. Now that y'all have had enough time, we're going to go over the questions. See how y'all did. Y'all feel pretty good? Is anybody confused? Some? Okay. We'll figure it out. Whatever questions you have, I'll help y'all after. Okay. Number 1. Let's see. I'm going to pick someone to do the whole question for me. Who thinks they can do number 1? Steven? Okay. Number 1. You got yes, which meant you kept going. Number 2 is the faces. 5. Number 3, this is the edges. 8. Number 4, this is the vertices. 5. Number 5, what did you get? Rectangular pyramid. Did anybody disagree? Steven is correct. Good job, Steven. Number 2. Who thinks they can do number 2? Phil, I haven't heard much from you today. Number 1. Yes. Number 2. This is the faces. 5. 3. This is the edges. 8. 4. Vertices. 5. Okay, number 5. Square pyramid. Okay, now I want to speak to you and Steven. How did y'all know the difference between a rectangular pyramid and a square pyramid? Because both bases are a polygon, both bases have the same number of faces, the same number of edges, and the same number of vertices. How did y'all know the difference? Steven, yes. You have to look at the shape of the base. Is that what you did? So this one's a square and this one's a rectangle and this one's a square. Good job. You'll need to make sure to keep a close eye on that, okay? We can't go based off of this all the time. Of course, if there's, 3 sides versus, I mean, there's certain times you can base it off of this, but in this case you can't. So we need to make sure that we identify what shape our bases are, which is why it's important to know our 2D shapes, like we learned last week. Okay, last one, real quick. We're almost out of time. Sarah, go ahead. Yes. Faces. 6. Edges. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Does that make sense? Okay. 4 vertices. 8. Okay, 5, what'd you get? Thank you for calling it the right thing. It's called a right prism, but what do we like to call it? A cube. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on those? No? Oh gosh, y'all are so smart. Okay. So, for your homework, remember I told y'all to have y'all's books today. I told y'all that yesterday. It's okay if you don't, because it's just your homework, but I wanted y'all to look at the homework with me, which is why I told you to bring it. Okay, go ahead and flip your book to page 525. Okay. Do y'all see that classroom connection? It says grade 4. Y'all are 4th grade, which means I don't want to hear about how it's too hard because y'all are super smart. Okay, the title is Modeling a Rectangular Prism. Okay, so there is 8 questions, and I think y'all can do all 8 of them. I know y'all are smart enough, so that's going to be due by tomorrow. Make sure you write that in your planner because I don't want anyone coming in tomorrow saying they didn't remember what page it was on. 525. Once you get that copy, you can go ahead and pack up your stuff and line up by the door. We're about to leave, okay? Any last questions? No? Okay. Y'all did really good. Remember, 3D shapes are extremely important. It's extremely important to know how to identify them. So now that we've mastered pyramids and prisms, tomorrow we're going to work with the actual 3D figures of them. I'm going to bring in the blocks. And then next, we're going to move on to something else. But it's a secret. Okay? You good? Okay, great. Alright, pack up quietly, please. Thank you.